Agud Voch boysai. Nishmat Rusmas Mordechai. Gavriel email over here. Thanks so much for the share. It's really unbelievable how you always keep it extremely interesting, clear, funny, vulnerable, controversial, and immersive. I agree to all of that besides the last one. I have no idea what it means. On Daf Yomi, Amud Aleph, you asked that it's almost like just for Droish Schar that it only gets sold. Okay, he says a pshat. The latest talks interview. What are you doing over there? I hear you. Are you Maver Sedra now? What are you doing? Benching. It's enough that I have it every day over here. Motzei Shabbos. The latest talk, its interview was beautiful. One little point they made, it sounds as if there's no Amelus Torah for people learning your shir. In reality, even though it's interesting, it's not easy to learn and focus on a black Gemara. Who said that it is an Amelus? No Amelus means, for example, saying only Tehillim and not learning Gemara. It doesn't mean learning has to be boring. Mary Mendel, Staten Island. Hi, my name is Simcha Soroka. I'm an 11-year-old kid, and I decided to do the daf. My father immediately suggested MDY, and ever since Soita Daf Beis, I've been a member of the shir. By the way, I like the new format of the psukim, much better. Everybody has a zog. Everybody has a say here. Here's a video we got when my little brother was with me when I was learning the daf. I just thought it's interesting, it's better to show these kids this stuff than the alternative. Here we go. Look at the excitement on this little kid. Good morning, Rabbi Yeah, exactly. Dr. Factor as a kid. I brought my 3-year-old daughter to the doctor and I asked her if she wanted me to turn on the show for her to watch as we were waiting for a long time. Her response to me was, "No, Tati, I want your Gemara." So here she is, immersed in the daf. Brian Oper, dear Eli Stefansky, on behalf of my wife and myself, I would like to thank you for the Gemara. I received a clip of you speaking at a dinner fundraiser. It was the Siyum. You were speaking about getting up in the morning and the tsar, and you asked, what would one rather have, the tsar of Torah or getting a disease? Before going to bed at night, one would be a fool not to choose the tsar of Torah as opposed to getting a zap and parnassah chinuch. It seems to me a binary. I'm sure you wouldn't say something flippant. Rahman Islam, I'm sure there are many people get both tsaras. Learning Daf Yomi doesn't save one for these. Puk chazi. Look, Metzias, he says. I'm wondering what your cheshbon is in saying these things. I'll tell you what my cheshbon is. I was just repeating the Rabbeinu Yoina, Rishon. That's my whole cheshbon. I didn't make it up myself. I'm saying word from Rishon. Rabbeinu Yoina, my friend, Rabbeinu Yoina. Rabbeinu Yoina says that a person has the ability to choose his tsaras in this world. He could either choose the tsar of a disease, of anything else. Chinuch hayeladim, kid goes off the derech, whatever he wants, he could choose it. Or he could choose to have a tsar with Torah, meaning when it's very, very difficult, you don't want to learn, it's impossible for you, and you do it anyways. That's tsar of Torah, getting up in the morning. Oh, I was just repeating it, and actually in the clip I say, says Rabbeinu Yoina, but it's one of those clips it just came out, somebody sent it to me, and I saw it then, it says, maybe he edited it wrong. It's not me. Now you're asking Puk Chazi, there's people that do the daf, they learn B'tzar and they have a lot of tsaras. So maybe the answer is, they would have had much more tsaras. I don't know, but go fight with the Rabbeinu Yoina. What do you want from me? I'm just repeating for Rabbeinu Yoina. You have a good kasha. Of course, there's always this, it's the same obvious question. But maybe the guy was supposed to die, and now instead of dying, he has a terrible machla because he does the daf. I don't know. I mean, go speak to him, Brian. I don't know. I hear you. What? I look forward to that's you. You're Brian. You sent me the Brian Opert. Anyways, when people say with respect, you know what's coming, but this is with respect. I listen to you for hours a week. I look forward to understanding your perspective. Once again, thank you for our Gemara. I've tried learning with your shir a bunch of times and kept dropping out because I didn't have the time. I was learning and managed to get my brother hooked. And he in turn got his 3 boys hooked. I decided by Kiddushin to try, but this time listening on the way home from work, I live 45 minutes away, and at least I'm learning, even not while I was looking inside. Thank you for Yeshir and Chizuk. Mordechai from Manchester. So Mordechai from Manchester tried it a bunch of times. Now he finds it back on for Kiddushin during the drive. Why not? You have 45 minutes. Why not? Now somebody else from Manchester, I don't know if this is related, Rabbi Simon Jeremy Grant. Because how do I know he's from Manchester? Because in his email, I left part of his email, it says of Manchester. That's part of his email. Dear Rav Eli, although I do the daf myself, I listen to the beginning of your shir as I get great chizuk from hearing how the shir has changed lives. Recently you mentioned an email from someone who gets up early to listen to the shir. They are my relatives. And the shir has literally changed their life beruchnius. They learn other kviyus itim now, daven in a minyan, even missed a relative shever brachas that tend to get and see him that they were messiahim. Yischus is unbelievable physical mitzvahs. I wonder if it's the same person. Probably not. Because this guy just started again by Kiddushin. Okay. But both from Manchester, Givaldige Zachen. Rabbi Side, the Koilel, sponsored. May we merit the crown Hashem. The Masech, the Lakewood Lebovic families. Lakewood, New Jersey, because torah and achdus are the best segula. And where do you get your bike in Lakewood or in the entire New York from? B3 Bikes. Paris Achodesh, Leilui, Nishmat, Avraham, Albert, Levi, Ester, and Gavriel, Beniyaminov. Shom Shelav and Aliyah. In honor of Reb Eli, Siyum, HaShas, and all them the wires. Paris Achodesh, the Nishmat, Zechariah ben Moshe. Paris Achodesh, Rochel, Levi, Refuah, Shelemah, Bekarov. What are you doing? Who are you waving to? Me? What is going on this side of the... What is going on here? Levi, take care of these people. This is not a basketball game. You go, I can't. When the camera looks, you just go like this. You pretend you learn, you know? Learn your volume. For successful surgery, speedy recovery, Chaim Ezra Ben Menucha, successful surgery. Bekarov, not Nathan Ginot. Today is Eli Ginot's birthday. You know the famous Eli Ginot? Young kid who brought a ton of people to... There you go. I was learning. Eli's Ginot's birthday. I asked him what I can get him as a gift, and he said, donate to MDY. As I talked the kid. Sara Schnitzler, no text. Refuah Shelemah Bekarov for Yosef Avraham ben Chano Devira, Refuah Shelemah. The art of the month, Yosef ben Chai Sara. For all the schusim that come from supporting Nishmat torah, Yishkoyach, for your support, for the arts, Gevaldik art. MDY headquarter coffee corner and beverage without the hot chocolate this week. Vladislav, Zachariah, Refuah Shelemah, for Shira Sara Bas Shoshano. And our boys say now it's time to go over some, or all, very few this week, of the Musagim in Shas. Here we go. Milva Ksuva Torah, Kichsuva B'shtar Dami. Anytime there's a monetary obligation that you have, it's written in the Torah. You have to, let's say you damage somebody, you have to pay him back. So you have to pay him back. It's as if it's in a shtar. What's the difference if it's in a shtar or not in a shtar? If it's in a shtar, then you could go after real estate. You go after, or Ben Chayrin, the kids are nafkimin if it's written in shtar or not, if it's like alpeh or not. Lav abba mechlal asay, if you have a Isser Doirais that's a lav, but it came because you learned it from Isser Aseis, then it has the same halach as an Asei. Shibuda, Doiraisa, that's similar to what we said before. If you have a Shibud, you have a Chiyuv, Doiraisa, Shibuda the Rebnasan, the famous Shibuda the Rebnasan, the Cholent story, or without the Cholent, and that is if you borrow money from somebody and you lend somebody money, you borrow from one person and you lend money to another person, so the person you borrowed money from could go after the person you lent money from. To fasta merubah to fasta. So you saw it in life also. Don't go after something big. If you can grab something, it's better a bird in the hand than 2 in the bush. What's the saying? That's also, we didn't say it then, but that's basically what it is. It's Motzei Shabbos, my friends. It's Motzei Shabbos. Gershon is Ger, Ketinik Shenoilad. A Ger. It's as if he's a brand new person, so he loses his connection to his relationship, the halachic relation to his family. Edim Zoyim is the halacha that if a person lies and he testifies against somebody, and we find out that he's a liar, so we do to him the same exact thing that he wanted to do. So if he wanted to be mechayev money, malchus, etc. The Kiddushin grabs even on a chayiv lavin, if there's let's say almana to a kohen gadol, she's not gonna get married, but if the kohen gadol gets engaged or marries her, it works. It's a Kiddushin, it's just chayiv. Masa mashakos b'torah, you make a condition, and that's basically how we're going to start today. The sugya, if a person makes a condition against what it says in the Torah. So, if a person sells his daughter as an amma, and he says on condition that you don't do yiyud. Well, it says in Torah that an amma does yiyud. Rameir says it's a good condition. So, here we are. That's today's sugya. No, we could show this. Today, this is how we're starting. The Gemara says, well, Reb Meir has a special pasuk. You're right. Typically speaking, Masa Masha Kosabat Torah doesn't work. But it works over here. You could say that I'm going to sell my daughter as a amma on condition. You know, because it says le amma. So the Gemara brings Rabbanon who say, no, la amma, you can't do such a thing. You can't sell her just for an amma. So then what did they do with the la amma? This is yesterday's sugya. Learn from there that you could sell her to somebody who's puzzled, like a mamzer. Reb Eliezer holds, that's today's sugya. What do you do with the word la'ama? That you could sell her to relatives. You could sell her to your brother, to your father, relatives. And then we're going to have another pasuk in Ra. Basically, from there, you see, two, Reb Meir and Reb Eliezer learn the idea that you could sell her to somebody who's puzzled, like a mamzer and a nasr. Okay, so let's start the sugya. Where are we holding? Anybody know? Reb Eliezer, 4 lines from the bottom. You can keep it on the screen meanwhile. If it's to teach us the word la'ama, you see, la'ama. If la'ama, like Rabbanan learn, comes to teach us that you could sell the amma to somebody who's apostle. No, that already have another pasuk. Imra. It's a bad marriage. That's why. So then what does he do with the word la'ama? Okay, so now Eliezer has 2 things. One pasuk to teach that you could sell your daughter to a relative, like a father, a brother, and another one to teach that you could sell her to somebody who's apostle, like a mamzer. Says the Gemara, top of Chof Amud Aleph. Why do you even need a pasuk? I can learn from a kavachomer. If you could sell her to somebody who's apostle, okay, so someone is trying to explain what happened. If you could sell her to apostle, which is like a busha, it's a charpa. Should we stop?
Keep going. He says keep going.
Whoa, yeah, but my computer just went out. If you could sell her, I can't see anything. Oy shifti beveis Hashem kol yimei. If you could sell her to somebody who's possible to a mamzer, which is a busha, you can't sell it to your own car. So the Gemara, what's the connection? You could be mekadesh somebody who's possible. We said Kiddushin HaToifes. That's one of the Yisoidis in Shas. Chayv Elavin Kiddushin is Toifes. You can read in the Kroim Shem Rotzli Yad. What's the connection? When it comes to a relative, if you want to do yiyud, you can't. A father can't do yiyud to his daughter. You can't. You can't do yiyud to your sister. That's why I need law. So now let's go back here. Remeir, what just happened there? Givaldik. Okay, so we're back. Remeir. Now, Remeir who learns out from Le'ama that you could sell a daughter with a condition that there's no yiyud. L'psulin. So how does he know? Rabbanon learned from Lama that you could sell her to psulin, but Remeir uses it already that you could make a condition. Psulin afkele me'echad afkele Reb Eliezer. Psulim he learns out from where does Reb Eliezer look at the chart? Where does Reb Eliezer learn the union of psulim? Imra. So he also learns from Imra. B'kroivim. And what about the fact that you could sell her to relatives? Savala Karabana. Rabbanan, if you see when it comes to Kroivim, there's nothing. They hold that you're not allowed to sell to Kroivim. So Meir holds that you're not allowed to sell your daughter to Kroivim. Brings the Gemara contradiction. One brisa says you could sell your daughter to your own father. I'm sorry, you could sell her to your own father. Nafkamina. Here's a karev that you could sell to your father. What's pshat? How could you sell your daughter to your father? Could he do yiyud? Could a grandfather do yiyud on his granddaughter? Absolutely not. A grandfather can't marry a daughter, but it's a granddaughter. It says Mochel Aviv. You could sell your daughter as a shifcha to her grandfather. But you cannot sell your daughter to her brother. But they're both kroivim. This makes more sense to us. You can't sell her to either. Rabbanan hold that you cannot sell a amma to karev, like we just said. The mayor holds that. Rabbanan hold. What's pshat that you could sell to one type of relative called a grandfather, but you cannot sell her to a brother? Like Reb Eliezer. This doesn't work out according to anybody. Says the Gemara Loilam Kirabanan. It goes like Rabbanan who say that you're not permitted to sell a amma to a relative. So why are you allowed to sell it to the grandfather? Tzad yiyud means, yes, the grandfather, can never do yiyud, but the grandfather can give her over to one of his sons. That's not related. Son. And Memela, there's a tzad yiyud. Why? An uncle could marry his niece. So that's okay. Uncle marries his niece. Tzad yud means one out of the two. It doesn't. The Torah says you could marry her or your son can marry her. In this case, the master cannot marry her because he's the grandfather, but the son of the master could marry her because he's an uncle, and that's fine. Tana Rabbana. In Begapa Yavai Begapa Yetze. It says in the pasuk Begapa. What does Gapa mean, Rabbi Isai? Huh? Gapa means guf. If he comes with his guf, he leaves with his guf. What does it mean? The Gemara is going to explain. Comes in by himself, then he goes out by himself. What's going on here? The halacha is by a eved Knani that if you poke out his eye, his tooth, one of his tips of his fingers, toes, goes out. Not a eved ivri. So what does it mean? What does it mean? So the Miri explains very pashut. It means that you have to make him whole. If he came in with a whole body, he leaves with a whole body. Meaning, you pay him for the damage. You knocked off one of his fingers, pay him. How much is a finger worth? $10,000? You give him $10,000. But he doesn't go free. So the pasuk is by an amma. It says, she doesn't leave like a Evet Kanani. So we already know this pasuk. We already know this halacha. It's a double thing. Maybe you should pay for the finger, pay for the eye, and he goes out. Means she doesn't leave, a Jewish slave doesn't leave like a non-Jewish slave. A non-Jewish slave leaves, if you poke out his eye, he just goes home. A Jewish slave goes home, plus you have to pay for it. It's not like a non-Jewish slave. Kamash Malon, that it's very different, that he doesn't even leave. He gets paid, but he doesn't leave. No, so it's like Gita V'Yada B'Am Kechad, it could be Amanash and whatever. Oh, you're saying in a Jewish, how do you know? But that's different. Mashkon Evikon Rabbi is not by a Jew. I didn't have what you're saying. You're saying a Jewish slave who gets paid for his eye? No, you don't have Mashkon Evikon Rabbi there. He's kind of for certain things, but I don't believe in not that kind of stuff. For Metzia is not as adult, I don't think. We probably learned it and we just have no idea. What does that mean? He went in as a single individual, he's coming out single. Ubanim, if he has a wife or children. Rabbi Motzei Shivcha, you heard I say that? Or Rabbi Motzei Shivcha Knanis. If he's a married man, then he's eligible to marry the Shivcha forcefully. Eli Stefansky, he's a single guy. He doesn't have a wife or children. The svara is because if a guy has a shivcha, a Jewish guy sees the shivcha, he wants to marry her. So what does he do? He goes and he steals a little bit, and then he gets sold to him, and then he gets to marry her. Yeah. So no, if he already is established as a family and is this, now we don't think he's doing anything fishy. And Memela, he can marry the shivcha knanas. Torah. The Gemara is going to tell us over here that an Eved has a double standard. That we do whatever's in the Eved's best interest. He was sold for 100 for 6 years. Turns out that a slave today is worth double. Yeah, after Corona, whatever it is, slaves are worth double. Like a car. Everything went up in price. Now he wants to come and redeem himself. He wants to pay the master prorate 100. The problem is, if you let's say you work 3 years and you prorate, let's just make it easy. For 6 years, he sold himself for $600. He worked for 3 years, he owes the master how much? $300. The issue is that right now the price doubled, so now he owes the master, after 3 years, he owes the master how much? $600. So we're going to do a double standard here. We're going to go in the Eved's favor. I'm going to say, no, it goes based on the purchase price. It doesn't go based on today's value. The purchase price was $600 for 6 years. You owe 3 years, pay $300. If the master wants to replace him with another Eved, it's going to cost him double. Too bad. The Eved gets the Yodel Nimkar b'mana, he was sold for 100. His price doubled. We do in his favor. He doesn't have to pay the higher price. He pays the lower price. You go by the money of the mikna of the purchase. What about the opposite? He was purchased for 200 and now he's worth half the amount. Now I don't go by the purchase price. Now I go by what he's worth today. And today he's worth half of what he was worth 3 years ago. So you give mamish half. So how would that work in our case? He was bought for 600. He worked for 3 years. So instead of paying 300, now he's worth half. So he only pays 150 for 3 years. So we have another pasuk that tells us it's not Mikaz Miknas, it's Kefi Shanav. It goes by the amount of years, by what he's worth now, the amount of years. That's great. A slave that was sold to a non-Jew. Since he could be redeemed by his relatives, so the master's hand is on Tachtoina, he gets the raw end of the deal. Yisrael, that if he's sold to a Jew, that the Kroivim do not redeem him. How do you know that? So over here you have the two psukim. It says one is, the top one is the Eved that was sold to a guy, the bottom one is the Eved that was sold to a Jew. And Mamela, we compare the two halachas. And Yodei al Yoina, you do the double standard even to a slave, a Jewish slave that was sold to a Jew. Omar Abaye, Hareini kiben azay b'shuki Tveria. Says Rashi, you can see in Rashi over here, mamish like in the middle of the page. Omar Abaye, Hareini kiben azay. You have a bdicha daite, when Abaye was in a great mood, have a ragel mahachi, he would say this. There's in other places in Shas that he says this. I found another place that Rava says it also. Hareini pasuach muchan lahashav l'shoyalei dvar torah kiben azay. Ask me anything you want. What do they call it? No. Ask me anything. No, like you do a table, like a panel. Shkoyach. Ask me anything in the panel. No, I'm just thinking about the Shabbos and what? Can't say. It's going to be an amazing Shabbos. Unbelievable. It's going to be uplifting. There's going to be tefillas and music and speeches. I'm trying to get Benny to speak. It's going to be unbelievable. Oh, sorry. So he says, ask me anything like Benazai used to do. Benazai was very, very sharp and he used to darshan. In B'charis it says, every Talmid Chacham in this generation is like the peel of a garlic. Besides, Rebbe Kiva. That's why I once asked a certain chassid, why does your Rebbe say that? He says, I'm greater than everybody in this generation. He says, what do you mean? Benazai also said it in the B'charis. Okay, but Benazai, okay, fine. Huh? Says the Gemara like this. Ask me anything you want. Okay, you ask me anything you want. So there was a Talmid Chacham, he says, Abaya, if I can ask you anything you want, let me ask you this. There's a pasuk that says that we go based on the purchase price. There's a pasuk that says you go based on what he's worth today. You decided that it should be in favor of the slave. Maybe it should be in the favor of the master. So if he went down in value, you go by the purchase price. If he went up in value, you go by what it's worth today. Who told you how to do it? Says the Gemara, doesn't make any sense. Why? Because the Torah said you should be nice to him and be mekel. Why? The Sanya, this is a Gavaldik Gemara. It says in the pasuk, he wants to stay by you. He wants to be Eben Nirtza. Why? Because it was great by you. He had a great time. What does that mean? So we learn la halacha. Look, it's in the Shulchan Aruch. Hey, it's a halacha. Imach b'machol. You have to give him the same sushi, the same steaks that you're eating. You have to give him. V'imach b'mishta. You have to give him the great wine. You're eating the whole wheat stuff. Koishi, you could eat it. You're on a diet, you have to eat it. But l'maisa, you want to eat the geschmack stuff. At the shoyse yain yashan, you're drinking aged wine. But shoyse yain chadash, where you can give him that cheap stuff, the 15 shekel bottle. At the yashan agabe moichim, v'yashan agabe atev, and you're sleeping on a beautiful mattress, and he's going to sleep on straw. The Panovich Rav, the famous Maisa, when he came, he brought in all these Yisayimim from after the war, and he couldn't do it anymore. He went to all the Gavriel, he already used up all his resources, he built the yeshiva, and he couldn't do it. So he got up in shul, and he gave a drush, and he said, why does the Torah say, I'm not saying this is the real pshat, but this is what he said for his speech. Why is it that the master has to give the pillow to his slave? He says, because if you only have a pillow and your slave doesn't have a pillow, you won't be able to sleep at night. So Torah wanted you to be able to sleep. So Torah said, give him the pillow. So he said, I have all these Yisayimim and they don't have blankets and they don't have pillows. Imam, they didn't have blankets and pillows. Imagine these kids lost their parents in the war. They come to Bnei Brak in this hot, sweaty place, no air conditioning, no pillow, nothing. Sleep on the floor. I mean, they were happy to be alive, but imagine the tsar. And the Maisa is that there's so many blankets and pillows that came in that Motzei Shabbos, they had to tell people, stop, enough. But based on this Gemara, Mikan Omru, Kol HaKoyne Eved Ivri, Kekoyne Odin La'atzmai. You're buying a master for yourself. You thought you're going to get somebody, you have to treat him better than you treat yourself. As Taisvas, what do you mean? Why is it Odin La'atzmai? Why is he your master? He's equal to you. You give him a pillow because you have a pillow. You give him a blanket. But why is he your master? Okay, you bought yourself an equal. Says the Taisus brings the Yerushalmi. But what if you only have one pillow and one blanket? What do? To use it yourself, you're not allowed to kitayv la'imach. And to put it in the closet and not to give to either or, that's midas daim. So memela, if you only have one, says Taisus, the Yerushalmi, then you have to give it to him. So who's the master here? He's your master. Okay, that's great. We're not going to argue on this. You have to give him the good food, the good drinks. You have to give him the pillow. Okay, you can't make him have tsar. But when it comes to redeem him, maybe we should be tough with him. Give him the raw end of the deal. What does Reb Yosef Reb Chanina say? It's not Reb Yosef Reb Chanina. The dust of Shvius. So explains Rashi that the dust of Shvius means on Shemitah it's also to plow the field, it's also to work the field. But to deal in fruit of Shemitah is only a limud that we learn out, and that's considered the dust of Shvius. It's not the Ester that the Torah says. So take a look at what Yoshi did here. I think he did a Gavaldic job. So over here it says, we're not going to bend to the Sachtanot, to the people that don't work on Shemitah. We're going to work on Shemitah. So you see, let's do it again. He's selling stuff on Shemitah. He's selling the fruit on Shemitah. Here he goes, he sells to another guy. The guy takes off. Great. What's going to happen? It's going to happen that he's going to have to borrow money. And then after he borrows money and he doesn't do tshuva, guy comes back. He loses his field. Comes back. Where's the money? He loses his house. Bekitzer. Eventually,
You should have left the sign.
Eventually, he loses his daughter.
You should have left the sign.
Okay. Go speak to him. He's on right now. I'm sure he hears. So, Bekitzer, everything goes wrong for him. But this is a big, big yesod in life. It's a big yesod, especially now, before Rosh Hashanah. Take a look at it. Adam noisev and noisev b'perish shvius. A person does one iser. He deals with the fruit of Shemitah. Lasoif, moiches metaltalov. He's going to sell off all the stuff. So if you go back, I missed that one. Okay, you know what? Here. No, there was a place where the cows went flying. Here they go. Oh, so here, let's just click. Here, this guy, he's not lending you money. Now, he got rid of his tractor and his cows. Okay. So the Gemara is darshaning smichos here. The psukim come one after another, so we're darshaning this. You're going to sell all your movable objects. If you didn't feel it. So, Rabbi, when I was a kid, I was about 9 years old. I was going to Beis Yitzchak, the Square School in Bar Park, and I saw a terrible thing. I saw a very young individual carrying some very heavy cases of soda. And it turned out that it was his son's bris that morning. And he was carrying it, he was crossing 40th Avenue, and he collapsed. All the soda went everywhere, and he just fell on the floor. So as a kid, I was just naturally, I stood there, I was in shock. And Atzala comes, and I haven't seen this ever since, but somebody at Atzala told me that they still have this thing. They put out a device that was pumping his heart, like this, a pumper. Never seen it before or after. Kids are... Sometimes a person faints, he falls on the floor. So you go over to him, you go like this, you give him a smack in the face. If he doesn't respond, you give him a whack. If that doesn't work, you give him a shock, a real shock. It's clear. If that doesn't work, then you start with this massive machine. I don't know what it is. It's like, that's what the Gemara is saying over here. First, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the guy smack. Lo hirgish, he didn't care about the smack. Oy vavoy. So it says over here, look at Rashi. Lo hirgish, loisam liboy li puranos habalav. This is a yisoid gadol ma'od in our life. That when something wrong happens to us, we have to understand why. Everything. Your foot hurts, it's because of this. You're this because of that. It's a simon from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They have to do tshuva. You have to do something. The Beniyaminov talks about it all the time, that the point of these Yisurim, it's a tremendous favor for us. We say, oh, Hashem, He hates us, He gives us Yisurim. No, Yisurim is a taiva so that we do tshuva. If we're able to understand it and fix what we need to fix, then it's a tremendous taiva. If not, if we're shaitan, then it just keeps getting worse. That's it. If you didn't feel, and this is a lashon the Gemara is going to talk about, Lo hirgish means that he could have felt it, he should have, but he didn't. So then the next step is the guy comes, gives money, and that's it. He sells his field. So this is a different lashon. He didn't even. There's no way for him even to know. Then he sells. Here we go. The guy comes, buys his house. As the Gemara, in the beginning it says he could have felt it, he should have felt it, but he didn't feel it. And then it says which means a lashon that it's almost impossible for him to feel it. Says the Gemara to the Rav Huna, if a person does an aveira and he repeats it, then it becomes mutter to him. There's a guy that was talking during HaShas, so the Rav comes over and says, "What are you doing? It's Ester." He says, "No, I hold like Rav Huna." Once you do it twice, it becomes mutter. Ask the Gemara, whoa, it becomes mutter. Hutraloi. So kedaitach. Elonasis like a heter. Once a person, like the Gemara says, a person who does it over and over, it's kilo, it becomes, he doesn't think twice before he does that very again. So maybe it's very difficult for him to even see where the issue is. He has a big zetz. He has to sell his house. He doesn't know why he has to sell his house. He doesn't chaf. Because he's doing an aveira that became like a head to him. And afterwards, eventually, so it starts off with selling shmita, which is a vak aveira. And it keeps on going. Hashem gives you all these things. I forgot where that Gemara was. Should have asked my Chavrusa. I think it's a Gemara. No, where the guy spoke the language of the birds? No, it's not a Gitin. No, there's a guy that spoke the language of the birds. Maybe it's just a Medrash. I don't know. No, that's not a Gitin. Can't be in Gitin. We just learned Gitin. If it's Gitin, I gotta quit right now. But the brain is deaf. Okay. The story with the bird, the guy heard Yiddish brach, and then no, different. Maybe it's a different story. The story was that you heard the bird saying that he's gonna have a robber in his house. So he went and he made sure that they don't come rob. They saw the ganovim. He was waiting for them with guns. Then he heard the bird say, "Hey, your house is gonna. Where's this? How do you know? You're in MDY Kids. Gary's in MDY. He's in charge of MDY Kids. Is it really Rosh Hashanah?" And then he heard Gavriel. And then he heard that his house is going to burn down. So he came ready with the water. And as the fire started, he put the fire out. And then he says, "It's not a Rosh. He's a bucking Rosh Hashanah. You're making it up. We have to see. We're going to see tomorrow. It's not Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah says not Rosh Hashanah. And then, since that didn't work, HaKadosh Baruch Hu just took him. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you an opportunity. Here, take this oyinit. You're going to have a robbery. Deal with it. You're Oiber Chacham. You heard the bird saying, and you prevented the robbery. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. So then he had a worse thing. His house was going to burn down. Then he prevented that. And forget it. Eventually, he doesn't do tshuva. He's going to sell his daughter. It doesn't say right there. A person would rather sell his daughter than borrow with interest. Why? High interest is the worst. When you sell your daughter, you have a way out of it. You could redeem her, you could prorate her and get her out of there. But when it comes to ribis, it gets worse and worse. It's hard to get out of. When that doesn't work, let me see. So this is the bitoi. Did he do love ribis? Yeah. No, that's something else. Because this is Motzei Shabbos. The Nachman always give me a hard time. How come I come late on Motzei Shabbos? It's so hard. We're doing most of these shards happen after Shabbos. Unfortunately, I should have been better on Erev Shabbos. You're right. We had a few oinsim, but Motzei Shabbos just working. As when I'm here right now, he's doing charts as we speak. Oh no, sorry. My time we said 4 lines from the bottom. He's going to sell himself. Here, let me find that pasuk. Here we go. So, you're going to sell yourself to a ger. Now, what does a ger mean? We think ger means a convert. But lo ger tzedek, not a convert. Ger toishav. So what's a ger toishav, Rabbi Isai? So you said Kibel Alatzmoi Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. Just put in two votes. Ger Taisha means a guy who accepts upon himself to only the 7 mitzvahs B'nei Noach. So he's still a guy, but the point is that he's going to sell himself to Ger Taisha. Now, Mishpachas Ger Zoevik Yechavim. Look at this pasuk, Mishpachas Ger. At the end it says Ger Taisha, Mishpachas Ger. There's a real full-fledged non-Jew, somebody that didn't even accept upon himself. And what about the purple word Laker? Daf Amud Beis. He's going to sell himself. Says Rashi, not avodah. He can't sell himself as an idol, as a getchka, but he's going to sell himself to work for avodah zarah, to chop wood for avodah zarah. So, if you want to see what it looks like, it goes something like this. Oh, I like all the things in the background. The dog chasing the lady over there. Oh, so now the koimer buys him, and that's it. He himself leaves the scene. Before, he comes back. That he added on later. Okay, Givaldi. There was a guy that was selling, in the time of the Maskilim, people used to read like a silly book and they would go off the derech, they fly off the derech. So the Chavetz Chaim spoke to one of these people. He said, "Why are you selling these books?" So he said, "What do you mean? I need parnasa. I sell for every book I sell, every sefer I sell, I could sell 5 of these other books. It's great money." So he said, "But you know what? Stop selling these books. I have a better job for you." He said, "What?" He says, "You can ring the bell in the church. I have the job is open." So in the church, I'm going to ring a bell in church. He says, "Yeah. If you ring the bell in the church, who are you going to bring? You're going to bring other non-Jews. But over here, you're bringing the Jews to the thing. So you might as well just ring the bell in the church." Okay. Should I say this one? I don't know. I try to stay away from it. Rochel, Zechariah, he was in America, and he asked the driver to bring him to shul. So the guy says shul. He looked up in Ways synagogue. He wrote the shul. Turns out it wasn't one of the shuls they wanted to go into. So he said, "I'm not going in." So they see him outside. So they brought him minyan. All of a sudden, the rabbi and the janitor, they come out. So could we be part of the minyan? He says the janitor is a Jewish guy. So Rochel said, "Yeah, the janitor I could use because he's in the building. He works in the building because he needs parnasa. But you, the Rav, I can't accept." So Rav says, "Wait a minute. I'm also only doing it for parnasa." Fine. So sometimes a person sells himself to avodah zarah because he needs it. He pasha needs it. But what's the bottom line? After all this, why do you bring this whole sugya, Rabbi Isai? It's great. You have to give him a pillow, this and that. The bottom line is, but why would you say that you should be nice to the Eved? Right? That's the point we're trying to make here. Maybe you shouldn't be nice to Eved when it comes to redeeming him. Why? Because it's his fault. Who was it? Rabbi Yosef, Reb Chanina? It was all the way up here. Yeah, Rabbi Yosef, Reb Chanina. It's a 15-line sugya. That what? If it's about giving him better food, giving him the pillow, shleitet star, it makes sense. But maybe when it comes to redemption, maybe the master should have the upper hand, not the slave. Why? Because it's his fault. He did shmita, he didn't do tshuva. He came to why did he sell his daughter? Because he did all these averos. No, but the pasuk helps you out. The Tani Rebbe Shmuel, Hoya Balachzeh, the Nasa Koimer Laved Zara. This guy became an attendant. The article says became not a koimer like we say koimer. There's a concept. A guy is falling down a mountain. Maybe you should push a giant stone after him and let it crush him. Not only he's falling, crush him also. So there also. Yes, he had a terrible time. Maybe we should throw a stone after him. The Remaylich says that Even Achar Neufel, Lizrag Even Achar Neufel, also goes on a person himself. Says Remaylich Biederman. A person, sometimes he's in such a yush, he has so many averis and so many things, he says to himself, Let me just go off the derech completely. I read it was over and this and this and this, so I should do this. He says, no, that's throwing the stone on yourself. Yeah, I'm a neufel. You're in a bad position. Doesn't mean that you should throw a stone on your head. There's a Rav, a Talmid Chacham, a visions of Chassid, that in the war, his name was Reb Michal Yitzchak Vider, something like that. He became Apikoros. He started writing anti-Semitic stuff in newspapers, the whole zach. He became mamish, I think he became a koimer. I don't know what he became. And he's writing against Yidden. And after the war was over, he decided to do tshuva. So the Chassidim didn't want to take him. It was some sugar. The whole war, he's fighting against Yidden, and who knows if people die because of him or not. He's anti-Semitic. And the Vizhnitzer Rebbe said, no, you don't push a stone, you don't throw a stone after the neufel. Yes, he's a neufel. Yes, he did the worst of the worst. He converted and everything. We'll take him back. You could always do tshuva. That's the point. The point is you could always do tshuva, even the worst of the worst. Guy, the mamish, who knows what he did? Okay. Do we have time for a joke? It's too late already. No, we don't. It's Shabbos. It's late. We should have been finished already. It's not the best joke anyways. It's only the Eved from Motzei Shabbos. Fine. You see the torah, as soon as he sold, the torah starts dealing with how do we get him out of there. So, if the torah wants that you should get him out of there, be nice to him. He should be makel with him. Says Gemara, maybe that's only that we should redeem him, so he shouldn't be part of the goy. But maybe if he could redeem himself, he should pay the higher price because of Reb Elchanan. That's his fault. There's two psukim. Ksiv imoid rabbis bashanim, uksiv v'ima'at nishar bashanim. Let's see. So here are the two psukim. When we discussed before, these two psukim. The red, that it goes based on the purchase price. We also discussed that it goes based on its value today. Contradiction. So it depends. It always goes in his favor. Says the Gemara, but think about it. If you look at these psukim, it says imoid rabbis bashanim, v'mat bashanim. Is there such a thing as a slave that's sold for less than 6 years? Or another place Rashi says, is there such a thing as a year that has more than 365 days? Or a year that's less than 365 days? Ella. So what's the pshat in the pasuk? If he became worth more, so it's in his favor. So look at the pasuk. When do we go by the purchase price? It's if rabbis bashanim, he became worth, his value went up. His value went up. So instead of him having to pay 600 to go out, you say no, you only pay 300 like the purchase price. This might cast boy, but if he became worth less, how? V'ma'at nishar bashanim. It's in the pasuk. Then kefi shanov, you go based on his value today, so the slave always wins. Maybe the pshat in the pasuk is maybe it has nothing to do with value. He went up in value, went down in value. Nothing to do with that. It's literally more years and less years. What does that mean? If he was sold for 6 years, right? Every slave is sold for 6 years. So either he has a lot of years that he has left, or a lot of years that he worked. That's the pshat. Im rabbis bashanim. He only worked 2 out of the 6, and he has 4 left over. Then it's then it should go based on his purchase price. If he worked more years, so v'ma'at nishar bashanim, only a few years, mamish gevaldik in the pasuk. He only has 2 years left on his thing, at a 6. Then then maybe that's the pshat in the pasuk. Then it should go by his value, not by the purchase price. So the Gemara, great pshat. In Kain Nichtav Kra, Imoid Rabbis Shanim, Imat Nishar Shanim. What's the base? My Bashanim. In the years, this Rabbi Kaz Bashanim, that if he is worth more, this my Kaz Bashanim Kifi Shanav. Rav Yosef Ashinu Rav Nachman Lani Kroi Sinai. Beautiful. I never heard such a beautiful pshat in my life. It's literally like a Baruch Hu gave it at Sinai. It's such a beautiful pshat. Says the Gemara Siman Eved Bayis Chatzoyim Bayis Eved Kroiv. Boymenei Ravunim Barchinim Om Rav Sheshes. Eved Iri Animkar Loiv Kechavim Nigel Chatzoyin or Eden Nigel Chatzoyin. Kasha. What's the question? Let's say, think about it for a second. If an Eved has 3 years left. 3 years left. How much is 3 years worth? How much 3 years? We said already. No, Rabbi said, help me. 300. He doesn't have 300. He only has $150 to his name. So what happens if he gives the $150 right now to his master? In other words, in a year and a half from now, he wants to go free. Does that work or not? That's the Gemara's question. You hear the question? If he doesn't have all the money to redeem himself, he only has part of it, could he give it today and it'll be redeemed in a different time? Do we learn it from Zdei Achuzah? What's Zdei Achuzah? It's a field that you got Yerusha all the way from Yeshua. Mazdei Achuzah in Nigal Chatzoyin. Take a look at this pasuk. It says V'ishki lo yeloi goyel v'siga yadai. So you have to Mazdei Achuzah Einoi Nigal Chatzoyin. You can't redeem it halfway. Sorry, it says Motzei Kedei Gulasai. That's the puzzle. Motzei Kedei Gulasai. You have to have the entire amount. Kedei Gulasai, yeah? Fits right in. So perhaps Eved Ivri also, you can't do half. Maybe if it's hurtful for the Eved, you don't say such a svar. Didn't we already learn in this Masechta? If a person, Rashi says, the case, right? A person stole 500, but he's worth 1,000, so we can't sell him. Why? Because nimkar kuloi v'loy chetzioi. You can't sell him for half. You have to sell him for the whole gneva. Hachenami, so use the same logic and say, nigal kuloi v'loy chetzioi. So too, when the Torah tells you can redeem him, you have to be able to redeem all 3 years, not only a year and a half. Stop, you should know. That if the halacha would be that you could redeem him for half, in other words, you give $150 for 1.5 years today, then it could be something that's a kula and a chumra. That what? What's the kula? If he was sold for 100 and he paid down 50, let's say the next day. You sold today, tomorrow he comes and he gives the guy 50. So how much should that be? How much should he be redeemed for? How many years? 3 out of the 6. He gave the guy 50% of what he was paid, so he gets off half the time, 3 years. Va'ashbach v'komal mosan, and then he was worth double, 200. If you say that he could be redeemed halfway, then he pays. He owes his master how much? He owes, well, it's no, because right now he's worth 200, and he paid off half the years, so he owes him 100. The 3 years now are worth 100. Price went up. He was sold for 100. Forget about what he was sold for. Today he's worth 200. But the day after he sold for 100, he gave the guy $50, and that took off 3 of his years. So he has 3 years left to work. That's if you hold that it works, that you could do half. 50 is not the whole amount. So the whole amount would be 100. He doesn't have the whole amount. He only has 50. So let's say it works. So he knocked off 3 years. Tomorrow you go and you say, wait a minute, how much is he worth? Oh, the price went up. He's worth 200. But he only has 3 years left on his amount. So he gives him 100 and he's out of there. So he gained. I know you're asking, but we said you can't do that, right? We'll discuss it. But if you say it doesn't work, then he has to pay the entire 200. 50 he paid yesterday, plus 150 today. Great. As the Gemara But wait a minute, you said that if he became more valuable, he never pays the 200. He only pays the purchase price because only the 100. Says the Gemara, we have a chart for that. That's also today, minutes before. It goes like this. The purchase price was 200 on the right. Today it's 200. Nothing changed in the purchase price. But when the price dipped, let's say on day one, the price dipped to 100. And he went and he paid 50. Yeah? So at that point, he bought 3 of his years. And he's only chayav to work another 3 years. You see on the top? He bought, with $50, he bought 3 of his years when the price dipped. So what are you asking me? Oh, you should go by the purchase price, but the purchase price was 200. That's what the Gemara is saying. You go by the purchase price. Today, the price is 200. Yesterday, the price was 200. In the middle somewhere, it was 100, and that's when he made this deal, that he paid 50. Says the Gemara. And where's the chumrah? Zavnei b'masan, if he paid 200. Yav ma'apalgadid mei. And he paid 100 for 3 years, that's half. V'chsav. And then he went down in value, v'kam al meya. He's only worth 100 now. If you say that it worked, the money that he gave stays, and it's the master's money, then he loses. Why? Today he's worth 100, so he gives 50. So how much money did he give him total? 150. So he mamish lost out. Why? Because when he bought him, no, it was 200. If you say it doesn't work, then the 100 becomes it was never the master's money to keep. It was in his pocket. That's all he has to give him, and he goes out. Oh, so let's see. First of all, here's the Chumrah chart. Okay. Okay, gewaldig. I don't want to confuse anybody, but here's the rules. If a person, what did he do? He changed it on me. Oh, yeah, no, he didn't. Okay, good. Moicher zdei achuza. Zdei achuza, again, is a field that you got, ancestral, what is it called? What? What are you laughing? Oh, no, you just noticed it now? Okay, you count down a shtickle off, he's saying. Fine. Zdei achuza is a field that was given to you, B'Yerusha, from your father's father. Now, what happens if he sells it? What happens when you sell it? It comes back in Yovel. But, as we're going to see in the Gemara, there's a cool halachas here. You could redeem it, but only after 2 years. And, okay, if he didn't redeem it, it comes back in Yovel. Great. Magdish de achuza. If you take this de achuza, you don't sell it. You give it to Beis HaMikdash. So you have all the way until Yovel to redeem it. But what if you didn't redeem it? It goes to the Kohanim. So again, if you sell it, you sell this de achuza, it goes back to you. But if you give it to Hegdish and you don't redeem it, it goes to the Kohanim. Now, a bayis batei arechayma means if you have a house from the time of Yeshua and you live in a walled city, so you could only redeem it the first year. If you don't redeem it, what happens? It goes to the buyer. Okay, these are the things. So you sell your house and you want to redeem it. Could you don't have the money. So what do? I want to redeem the living room without the dining room. Could I do that? Nigal chatzoy. Gulasoi is that achuz gomar? Do I learn from his de'achuzo that we just said, mas de'achuzo and nigel chatzayin, if I nigel chatzayin, just like a field you can, so too about the rechaima you can. Again, we have boter rechaima to a house in a wall city. We have a field that you sell and a field that you're magdish. Three things. You had a question. If I have a house, can I redeem half of it or not? Yes, you could. So the Gemara is going to say at the end, we have a machlokes here. Reb Shimon and Rabbanan. According to Reb Shimon, you could. According to Rabbanan, not. Now, what's very interesting is Reb Shimon is doirish time of the crow. Yeah? We had a few times in Shas. Reb Shimon, what does that mean is doirish time of the crow? That he explains to you the reason behind what the Torah meant, and therefore he comes up with Kiddushin. He takes these ideas and says, okay, since the Torah said this over here, we had it recently with Voch, yeah, like if you borrow money and the guy gives you collateral, you should give it back to him at night. And he says, but if the person has a lot of money, you can't, the whole thing. It's almana, not almana, it's because we shouldn't be choshid, so you made a halacha out of it. Over here also. Now what? Says Reb Shimon, Nishmat from Reb Shimon, Then what? Nisanya, im goel yigal. If a person is magdish his field, his de'achuza, magdish his de'achuza, gives it to the Beis Hamikdash. Melamed shaloive v'goya v'goyel chatzayin. Okay, that's if he's magdish, but not if he sells it, because if he sells it, the halacha is. Look at this, v'sigo yodai. You have to be able to afford the whole thing. So says Reb Shimon like this. I'll tell you pshat. Is there anything left? No. He says, because when you sell your de'achuza, the Torah made him strong. Right? As de'achuza, if you don't redeem it, what happens to it? It goes back to the original owner in yovel. That's very, very strong for the seller. But it's terrible for him. You hear this chiddush? You cannot borrow money. Magdish, you can't borrow money to redeem it. Magdish, but somebody who gives the field, doesn't sell the field, gives the field to the Beis Hamikdash, where he starts off bad. When he sells his field, he has a lot of koyach. What's his koyach? He gets it back in yovel. Magdish, it goes out to the koyanim. Yupa koychoy, yes, we said before. What happens by Yovel? It goes to the Kohanim. He loses, so he's in a terrible position. Nevertheless, he has the power that he's able to borrow money and redeem it halfway. And therefore, says Reb Shimon, Hai moicher bayis. Now we're going to go. He showed us two types of fields: one that he sold and one that he gave to Beis Hamikdash. So too, the guy that sells his house, since he's in a bad position, if a whole year goes by and he didn't redeem it, it leaves him completely. And therefore, he should be able to borrow money and redeem it halfway. So I ask you a question. If you have a bais b'atar chayma, could you redeem half of it? What's the answer? Look at these last words. Says Reb Shimon, yes, you could redeem a bais b'atar chayma half. Yeah? When? If he waits 50 years. He wants it today. Yeah, but he has to pay it back. It makes a deal. Now the Gemara is just going to ask a question. We see something the opposite, that he cannot be goyel chatzayin. Eisvei im goy yigal. This same pasuk that if a person is magdish de'achuz melam shelo goyel chatzayin sheyachol. The Gemara over here says the opposite svara. Shelemah dinu. This is a kavachomer. Uma moiches de'achuz shiu pekoychay. That's how a kavachomer works. Even though he's very powerful, even though it comes back to him on yovel, nevertheless, he cannot borrow and he cannot redeem half. Magdish, if he takes the same field, instead of selling it, he gives it to Beis Hamikdash. He's in terrible position. It goes to the Kehanim, and he did certainly shouldn't be able to redeem it halfway. So the Gemara When a person sells his field, we said in the beginning, he cannot redeem it for how long? Anybody remember? 2 years. Here's in this chart. He can be poida achdus, top thing in the center. Poida achdus. But somebody that's magdash's field, he could redeem it right away. And then the Gemara says, here's the line. But a house will prove it to you that what? He could redeem it right away. And this is the kicker. And you cannot redeem him halfway. You brought me a right from Shimon that says you could redeem him halfway, and over it says you can't. Like Kashia says the Gemara, or Rabban Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is the one that's Dorish time of the Korah. He explains to you, he proves the svar of the Torah, and therefore he says you could redeem halfway. And Rabbanan don't hold the time of the Korah, so they hold you can't. They have a kavachayim. Anyway, one more line. We have this contradiction that we just said. In order to answer the kasha, this one is Rabbanan, this one is Reb Shimon. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. Sorry for the inconvenience. Hopefully we could edit it somehow.